Turok Dinosaur Hunter is a first-person shooter that is defined by its over-the-top assortment of weapons, huge catalog of enemies, and total chaos. The game encourages players to use a wide variety of weapons to clear the difficult challenges and take on the role of a one-man army to blast through everything in sight within its 8 levels. One of the 2 starting weapons in the game is the knife, the weakest weapon in the game and only capable of doing high damage to enemies with a backstab. Because of the reliance the player is intended to have on their massive weapons arsenal, it begs the question, can you beat Turok Dinosaur Hunter on the hardest difficulty with only the knife? For reference, here's a side-by-side of an enemy on hardcore difficulty, the highest, which was added in the remastered release of the game, versus every other difficulty. Enemy movement, animations, health, and most importantly, fire rate and damage are dramatically increased on this difficulty, making every area a potential death trap. Enemies also don't drop items when defeated, meaning no mortal wounds, ammo, or health pickups from them. We've also added a few rules for this run to add an additional level of exploration and challenge. No major glitches, not necessarily because I have anything against them, but because I didn't know how to do most of them and wanted to show off as much of the game as I could in a mostly casual playthrough. All secret areas must be visited, -1 on level 2 due to the fact that you need an explosive weapon to access it, so 29 total. All blue portals must be visited, 2 variants are present on each level. All chronoceptor pieces must be obtained, 1 in each level for 8 total. No spiritual invincibility, and this probably goes without saying, but no cheats or console commands. Everything else, including tech armor, overhealth, minor glitches, and causing fratricide or infighting among enemies is allowed. Let's get started. Level 1 is a simple introduction to the game like you'd expect. The main objectives for us here are to gather each of the 6 keys for levels 2 and 3, collect the chronoceptor piece, and reach the hub ruins at the end of the stage. There are many different types of collectibles in this game, the first of which is Life Force. Gold tokens are worth 1, and purple are worth 10, awarding you an extra life when you reach 100. We take down our first enemy and grab our first key of the game, 5 remaining on this level. It's a good time to explain the downright schizophrenic health system that this game uses, unlike any I've seen before or since. Your max health is set to 100. Simple enough, but you can collect 2 health or ultra health pickups to go past 100 up to a max of 250. 25 health and full health pickups will only heal to the max of 100 unless you've collected a mortal wound, which refill your health and add 5 to your max health, so 105 in this case, up to a max of 120. And yes, this will be on the test. We pick up our second key from the first enemy packed area of this level, tanking a ton of damage from the guns, explosives, and raptors and dropping all the way down to 50 health. We climb up the hidden wall to access the first secret area of the game, and immediately hop off, not wanting to tangle with the campaigner's sergeant and his devastating pulse rifle. Enemies with guns and projectiles in this challenge are infinitely more dangerous than ones with melee weapons due to the increased animation speed, fire rate, and damage. It's very possible to get mowed down from full health in a second or less. We head into our first blue portal to restock on health and mark it off our list. These are basically self-contained challenges that are full of weapons, health, and items like tech armor and backpacks. Some of these portals have enemies and hazards, like this one does, so they can potentially cause you to lose a life. Sometimes it's better to save them for a more opportune time later in a level, as we'll see later in the challenge. We collect our spoils and head back to the carnage. We hunt down poor Ramby to get his meat, then dodge and weave the raptors to head into the next area. Turok's platforming ranges from simple to heart attack inducing, becoming more and more punishing as you progress through the game. At the top of the cliff, we encounter our first Purlin. This one doesn't pose much of a threat, and we can abuse its 1997 AI to make him turn endlessly and backstab him to take him down quickly. Backstabs do an enormous amount of extra damage and can trivialize some fights entirely. Here's a good example of something that's going to become fundamental in this challenge: infighting. By allowing enemies to hit or shoot each other, depending on the enemies, they can turn on each other, taking their attention off of you and wounding or killing each other in the process. We've hit the first save point, and I take this opportunity to clear out all other saves I had. We are absolutely going to need as many slots as possible. We hop over the tomato soup lava and head through the portal to reach the reset wall back by the first key. We try to bait out the raptors, then head up the ladder and encounter a soldier with a shotgun. You can see here how quickly your health bar gets decimated by these enemies in particular. I could have easily lost a life. This is a perfect time to hit the second blue portal to replenish our health and pick up some additional life force tokens, hopefully avoiding the chandeliers, which could end us with a single hit. After grabbing the ultra health to put us back in the green, we head back to the fray. We snag key 3, avoid the purlin, and head into the cave to get our first experience with some incredibly annoying enemies, the leapers. Most of them don't have a large amount of health, but their fast movement, sheer numbers, and ability to body block you make them a frustrating obstacle in cave environments, which have very little room to maneuver. We quickly slip through the cave, head through the portal to avoid being torn to shreds by the little devils, then make our way to another open area with a handful of enemies with guns ready to pump us full of lead. Using natural cover is going to be essential to survival, as demonstrated here. The next area is pretty easy. Giant beetles are no threat and an easy one-shot with a knife, one of the only cases where it's the proper weapon to use in a normal playthrough. After healing up, we head through the portal, quickly grab key 4 from the cave, and head to the pillar maze. Here is where we'll utilize one of the most important tricks that I discovered in the challenge, knifing through walls. This was something that I considered a borderline major glitch, but given how many restrictions we placed on ourselves already, this is one that I decided to let slide. The knife's range and ability to cleave multiple targets gives it some unique utility, but I can't help but remember how much easier it would be if I were using an auto shotgun or assault rifle in most of these cases instead. This at least gives us a fighting chance instead of walking into a firing squad and throwing our lives against the wall until we get lucky. We discover Secret Area 2 and grab the first Chronoceptor piece, then pick up Key 5 before leaving the maze with a paltry 4 health. The final difficult area of the first stage is filled with Second Amendment enthusiasts, but we at least hit a checkpoint before getting dumpstered for the first time. We sprint through the area on our next life, demonstrating that while others were cleaning their firearms, we were studying the blade, before jumping down into the beetle pit. After Febrezing the last few pests and collecting some more Doritos, we complete our keyring for level 1, head through a couple of portals, dodge Funky Kong with his arm-mounted cannon to reach the hub ruins, and save before diving into level 2. Welcome to the second level. The environment here is pretty much the same as the first level, but the enemies carry a lot more firepower. Levels 2 through 6 only have 3 keys to collect, plus the Chronoceptor piece, but there are more secret areas to explore, so we won't be strapped for things to do in any of these stages. Heading around the first bend, and we goad the raptors into getting into fights with the armed poachers, allowing us to save some of our health and weaken the raptors in the process. One of the poachers is taking pot shots at us, so we utilize an Olympic-length long jump with a strafe to hop across the pit and take him out. Turok has an interesting movement property that allows you to jump for a few frames after being airborne, meaning you can cross some wide gaps if you combine it with strafing. Dropping down to the first ruins area, and we grab a couple additional Doritos and head off the cliff to the first secret area of level 2. Pushing through the ruins, and we lose a chunk of health to more poachers, hit the checkpoint, and enter the hut village with an abundance of speed holes from the bullets. We quickly get mutilated and take our first death of the level here, but we just hit our first checkpoint, so we don't lose much progress. Across the lake, we dive into our first underwater cave. These can be tricky if you're swarmed by leapers, but this cave is pretty calm, and the challenge is more about successfully finding your way through without drowning. We break out the raid for some more beetles and grab the first key in level 2, then slip through the second half of the village and enter another ruins site with armed soldiers, poachers, and a sergeant all wanting our head on a pike. We take the high ground of the ruins and snag an extra life that we're likely to need in the next 20 seconds or so. backtracking to the village to grab a 25 health that we left from earlier, and I'm trying to think of an idea of how to dislodge the sergeant from in front of the save point. He's a stationary enemy, so we won't be able to backstab him due to his crazy hardcore mode tracking, and we don't have anywhere near enough health to try and tank his damage while we knife him down. I managed to get him to shoot a raptor to see if he'll whittle him down instead, but he guns him down immediately, and I decide to just keep moving without saving. After hitting the next checkpoint with a pathetic 13 health, we try to snake past some purlins, only to get hit with a knockout punch and lose our second life. We slip by on the next attempt and hide in the nearby cave to recover some health and hopefully bore him into leaving us alone. He's still there as we leave, but we zoom past him and jump into our first blue portal in the jungle. This has the added benefit of despawning the purlins when we come back out, so we're able to move ahead without the monkey on our back. In the next set of ruins, we take out the poachers and soldier before they get a chance to do much, then ambush the sergeant with a backstab as he drops from who knows where. This is the only way you can backstab the stationary enemies on hardcore. They need to drop in and you have to slash them before they get a chance to move. We climb the wall to head towards the next secret areas and lose half of our life from the shotgun soldiers before hitting the switch that lowers the fake wall leading to the next secret area. Per the rules, I need to carefully jump around the hallucinogen, spiritual invincibility, before jumping down onto the next secret area and second chronoceptor piece. The next area is basically a shooting gallery, but since we have no way to defend ourselves from the enemies up high, we just have to hoof it through here and hope we don't get riddled with bullets. After hanging a right at the gunner purlin, we take another leap over the side to traverse the log bridge leading to the next secret area. After dealing with some crawly boys, we find ourselves up top on the shooting gallery and take some revenge on a couple of the poachers at Secret Area 6. We head into the second blue portal and are planning on saving this full health for later in case we need it. Let's just call this our rainy day fund or something. For now, we just grab the triangles and head back out, and drop down below to head towards the next key. After heading through the cave and stepping on the little roaches, Key 2 is ours and we deal with the soldier and sergeant without any hassle or health loss. Fortunately for us, this sergeant is a mobile one, so instead of doing the intelligent thing by blasting us with his pulse rifle, he tries to beat us down with it instead like a makeshift club, and we backstab him for a quick takedown before heading to the next area. I'm starting to notice that the jungle has a very annoying habit of placing stationary sergeants in front of save points, so this one is going to be skipped over like the last one. Unfortunate since we get reamed by another sergeant just around the corner, but a comically oversized rock gets some revenge for us. We retrace our steps from the last checkpoint and make it back to see another rock drop on a poacher like the wily coyote. We're thrown right back in the blender and more shotgun troops tear us down to 40 health before we take refuge in the temple up the hill. We get our hands on some tech armor here. This is an extremely helpful item that not only protects your health like a shield, but also reduces the damage you take per hit to about a third of the normal damage, so it's essentially like plus 75 health each time you pick it up. Keep a mental note of this for much later in the challenge. Even with our abs of steel, 3 shotgun soldiers shred our armor instantly, but it served its purpose and we cross the bridge to enter a miserable leaper cave. Strafing is the name of the game here. There are over a dozen leapers in this cave, including a very large one, so trying to slip by without getting body blocked is the real struggle here. The previously mentioned unobtainable secret area is right here in this cave, and it's possibly the best one in the entire game, so it's a real shame to leave it behind, but we're committed to the bit. Leaving the cave and getting shredded down to 21 health isn't ideal, but thankfully there's a full health in the bottom of a pool nearby. We zip through the final checkpoint of the level and make our way to the underwater leaper cave with about 3/4 of our health still intact. We zigzag out of the cave without any real trouble, get roasted like a marshmallow by a purlin, and slip past the end portal to grab the final key. The jungle is complete. Welcome to level 3, the Ancient City. The first 2 levels were just a tutorial. The game only gets more and more difficult from this point. The new enemies introduced here are ancient warriors. The melee variants are simple enough to deal with, similar to the melee soldiers and poachers from the previous levels, but with a little more health. The annoying version of these enemies have blowguns, dealing about 9 damage per hit with very fast projectiles. We make our way up the large staircase and onto one of the rooftops to knock out the first blue portal. We get the portal for little babies with no enemies or hazards, so we pick up a 25 health and the Doritos and dip out. Dropping onto the large pillars gives us access to an ultra health, but looking back, this was probably a mistake to get so early on. There are undoubtedly some difficult parts in this stage, but with a challenge this restrictive, you really need to think twice before picking up important items like this. Anyway, we head back up the stairs and into the second blue portal, so we've already checked those off the list. This portal does have a lava hazard, but picking up the life force tokens is going to help us in the long run, so I'll risk it. Into the city itself, and we lose 40 health points from grenades as we head up to our first majorly challenging area. This city has everything that can stomp you into paste. Ancient warriors with blowguns, shotgun soldiers, poachers with shotguns and pistols, and 3 sergeants for good measure. I unknowingly prevent the first sergeant from dropping in by hopping across the ladder gap, but there's no time to celebrate. We enter this absolute battlefield and need to get in and out of here as soon as possible. The first secret area in the city is through the pool up the stairs, tucked away against the wall in a very claustrophobic tunnel. We're fortunate enough to slip through to the upper level of the area without hemorrhaging a massive amount of damage, drop in the secret hidey hole to get some more life force, and book it towards the next area. Note that there's a save point in this large building that we pass, but it's guarded by another sergeant and there's no way to get him through the wall. We'll come back for this area later, but for now I head up the stairs behind this building and I'm making a beeline for a juicy ultra health in the next section. With only 26 health, we head up to this building, which looks like something from Angry Aztec, and this shows a place where the discovery of knifing through the wall can be really game-changing. There's a Perlin gunner through this wall that guards the ultra health, and would be very difficult to slip by or take on with just a knife without losing a lot of health. We're able to knife him through the wall, using the sound as feedback as to whether or not we're hitting him. After about 50 knife hits, he goes down and we'll be free to snag the ultra health when we get there. Before heading that way, we proceed up the nearby steps to ambush a sergeant, take out some other soldiers with very little health remaining, and use the knife through walls strat again to dispose of the sergeant guarding the switch leading to the tech armor through the wall. We put our newfound armor to good use to hit the switch being guarded by another sergeant, but our embarrassing movement leaves us out in the open long enough to lose our first life in the city. Taking the L had some positive and negative effects. We use up a tech armor here to avoid losing too much health, but we remembered to take the portal inside the building up top to make our way towards the first key. Not sure I would have remembered to go back for it otherwise, so it's good that we took care of it here. The only tough enemies that spawn in here are some Perlins, but we don't need to deal with them, so we grab key 1 and make our way back to the next section of the city. At least we don't need to hit the switch again to drop the steps down to the underground area, but we tank a ton of damage down here and dive underwater for some 2 health before taking the other underwater hidden passage sitting against the wall. I'm not all that interested in dealing with the shenanigans of all the leapers and beetles in here, so we pass through this area and claim that shiny ultra health. Heading to the next area with key 2, and we pick it up before avoiding the raptor nests and soldier garrisons to push into the pyramid ahead. This next part is one of the most tedious and physically exhausting parts of the whole challenge. Remember these Perlin gunners, the ones that take about 50 hits with a knife to finish off? Well, if you thought those were intimidating, these next ones are like King Kong with a bazooka. There are 2 of these giant Perlin gunners, each with more health than normal Perlins, and there is no way to attack them through the walls, and believe me, I tried everything. The only way to deal with these monstrosities is through what I like to call the Seizure Procedure! Basically, this involves holding W and D and repeatedly picking up and slamming the mouse towards the left while knifing over and over again until
either you die or I do.
I know this isn't pleasant to look at, so I'll just speed up through it, but just know that this is murder on your shoulder and takes forever. This may have been way easier on controller, but I'm extremely hard-headed and incapable of learning a lesson. And keep in mind, there are 2 of these things. I counted 97 knife hits. 97 hits to take each one down, and it took over a minute for each one. Just know that I did this for you, the viewer. I love you. We head down the stairs and pick up some health before taking the portal back outside. We're now able to access the elevated path on the right and pick off the rabble before another Perlin gunner drops off the battle bus. Thankfully, this one is stationary and close enough to the wall to be knifed from inside the switch building, so we take him down to work out the psychological complex we developed from the giant gorillas. Hitting the switch drops the gate leading into the next area, another wide open battlefield with no shortage of enemies or projectiles. Heading up the ramp on this building, and we're greeted by another nightmare scenario with these two sergeants. Thankfully, there's a specific spot you can nestle into underwater where you can knife them and they can't hit you, but it's tricky to get into. I also realized that these guys are completely optional after taking out the first one. I really need to get this eliminate everybody mentality out of my head, at least for this challenge. Heading up top, and we navigate some platforming before trying to ambush the sergeant who literally has his back against the wall. We failed. We get our revenge on the next Sarge, then hit the switch to open up Secret Area 8 down below. We warp back up top and finally hit a save point, which is good because the next area is something I officially refer to as the Clench Zone. Anyone who played this game growing up likely knows how terrifying this area can be. As I've gotten better at the game over time, this area has become less and less traumatic, usually. But the Perlin we're not really able to deal with adds some additional pressure here. The good news is that there are a ton of life force tokens to pick up, meaning you can recoup some of the lives lost up to this point and stock up for the coming stages. We take a detour to this climbable wall and pick up Chronoscepter piece number 3 in another secret area, and we're ready for the first boss. The first boss of this game is the Longhunter. He's like a weird mix between Duke Nukem, Guile, and Bandit Keith from Yu-Gi-Oh! The first two phases of the fight aren't even fighting him at all. You fight two Humvees that drive around trying to run you over and shoot you with their machine guns and rocket launchers. I was concerned as to how long these would take to destroy with the knife until I realized that it does this much damage to the vehicles, which was jaw-dropping. Funny enough, I went back later and tested this because I had done this previously and thought it was a glitch, but sure enough, they have a back hitbox and hitting it with the knife will destroy them in a single hit. So these Humvees were a total joke, and now it's time for the Longhunter himself. When you're close to him, there's a good chance that he'll try to melee you with a series of kicks, which is good news for us since he's extremely slow with them and will basically always miss if you're moving. He can also blast you with his pulse rifle though, and it does a lot of damage that can melt your internal organs quickly if you're caught in a bad spot. At range, he'll also try to throw these energy boomerang projectiles at you that explode on contact. Overall, fighting him with a knife isn't too bad, so long as he doesn't resort to using his pulse rifle often. We establish our dominance as a warrior and take his pulse rifle as a trophy, grabbing the final key for level 3. Because this game isn't nearly as popular as, say, Zelda or Halo, here's an interesting fact about the character of Turok that may be a little shocking. Did you know that Turok has actually been a character longer than Spider-Man, the Incredible Hulk, Thor, and the X-Men? Turok's first appearance dates all the way back to 4-Color Comics number 596 in October or November 1954. After 2 appearances in 4-Color Comics, he starred in his own title, Turok, Son of Stone, starting back in March to May of 1956 and running all the way until 1982. Several different iterations of Turok comics appeared throughout the years, all the way through 2017. The Ruins is another step up in difficulty with a massive amount of enemies, including some new ones that can easily burn you down by themselves. There is some difficult platforming here as well, and a handful of secret areas that we'll need to risk our hide for. I had to experiment with a few different routes on this level, and needed to load back to the hub ruins and restart a few different times. Life management is going to be very important for this challenge, and we can't afford to lose a significant amount of them before we even hit the halfway point of the game. One of the new enemies introduced in this course are the High Priests, which, like most other enemies, are either stationary or mobile. Most of the priests on this course are stationary, which makes them much more difficult to deal with when wielding only a knife. Similar to the sergeants, these enemies will track you perfectly and won't let you get behind them if they're the stationary type. I went through the path and encountered the majority of these guys first to get it out of the way early on in the level. Near the reflecting pool across the bridge from the course entry is a gallery of many different enemies, including a high priest. Stepping on the switch in the center of the room will bring all of the statues to life. And the smartest thing to do is run around the area immediately and let all the different enemies start infighting. The most important thing to do here is to take advantage of the High Priest fighting someone else and get an easy backstab on him, killing him instantly. The gate will slowly lower after this and let you progress to the next area. Our little buddies are back and easy enough to deal with, but this area has 2 stationary High Priests that take a lot of punishment and will decimate your health bar. After rushing down the first one, we're left with an agonizing 5 health, but we're lucky enough to slip into our first blue portal in time to survive. We grab the full health here and head back to go to war with the second High Priest. We end this one in a stalemate, with me losing a life and the priest blasting himself sky high, so I consider this a win. I head back out to save before moving on so we don't have to fight those goblins again. We are heading out to the cliffs to take the 8th level key this time, so we dive into the waters and through a populated leaper cave to hit the portal leading there. The poachers take us down a peg before we start parkouring over the log bridges dotting the cliffside. Once we reach the top of the cliff, we only have 18 health to spare as we jump to the ultra health platform and pick up some more spicy sweet chili Doritos. When we head through the portal and grab the key, we drop from the ledge immediately to avoid getting cooked by Sarge and save our progress again. Thankfully, we saved one of the 25 healths from the end of level 1, so we grab it now to try and survive the blowgun snipers watching the bridge. We're heading towards the back area of the ruins this time, complete with a High Priest guarding the area way up high in a spot that we would be lucky to reach without getting cooked, much less take him out. I'm really stumped on what to do at this point since we can't reach him through the floor with our knife, and I have no idea what strategy to use. Then, I climb up top and hit the switch to drop the gate, and facepalm as I realize you don't even have to eliminate him to move on to the next area. After reloading, we get the gate down and push forward. After reaching the next open area, we get pummeled by the High Priest and come back with a bit more health for our rematch. I knew I couldn't take this guy head on, so I coax him into lighting up a raptor like a Christmas tree, and once they start fighting, I give him the Caesar treatment and stab him in the spine. After saving the game, we scavenge the area for some health and armor, take down the final High Priest that we need to get rid of on this level, and head towards the portal leading to the column maze. This place is... something. Shotgun soldiers are lurking around every corner, and a sergeant, stationary of course, is guarding the entry to the next section. After trying to face tank his pulse rifle long enough to take him down and coming up short, we retreat back to the secret area and grab the ultra health to heal back up. Thankfully, we have enough survivability this time around to survive and take him down, but we're at a measly 18 health as we hit the save point. Try as I might, I simply could not avoid losing a couple of lives here, and we dropped down to 4 lives after getting the firing squad treatment from the soldiers. After finally taking out all the enemies down low in the switch room and up top near the Minecraft water elevator, we grab the full health near the maze exit and swing back to visit secret areas 11 and 12. From here, we just need to grab the Chronoscepter piece and leave, but atop the massive structure that holds it are 4 unique gargoyle leapers, the toughest in the game, and we won't even pretend to fight them. Whoever said no fall damage in this game is a peach. Now that we're back to the ruins, we swing back to the area where we took out the High Priests at the beginning to pick up the second key in Secret Area 13, and I realize I've forgotten about the last key in the underground temple area. This was where the challenge nearly ended. Flashback to the giant Perlin gunners from the last level. There's another one guarding the entrance to the underground temple. Well, why not just use the same strategy as before, I hear you asking? The problem is that this Perlin is up against the wall of the level, meaning you can't rotate around it like you could with the other 2. Because the wall it's up against is out of bounds on the other side, there's no way to knife this enemy through the wall either. The only way to deal with it is to face it head on, try to rotate around it, and jump over it when you're up against the wall. This doesn't work every time, however, and we needed enough survivability to land 97 knife hits on this guy to take him out. At this point, I started revisiting older levels, looking near the beginning of level 5, looking everywhere in the ruins itself, and couldn't find any health power-ups to use here. One thing I could grab was the tech armor near the reflecting pool across the giant pit with a very precise jump. However, this wasn't really the buffer I was looking for. But remember when I said I restarted this level a few times to figure out the best way to go through it? Well, one of those times involved going into the second blue portal, so I thought it had been done already. Lo and behold, when I took another look in the second portal in the ruins, it was fully stocked and I at least had a chance to buff up enough to take on the chimp. Rather than trying to take him on with 87 health, we now had 151 health and 24 tech armor, so essentially 223 health, give or take. After giving it a couple tries, we took it down with 91 health, more than enough to make it into the underground temple. Next step is to make our way through the Great Maze, another place where knifing through walls will be extremely helpful. Each of the enemies in our way can be taken out with this method, except for the 2 sergeants guarding the entrance to the temple itself. This was one of the funniest and most innovative ways to utilize fratricide that I came up with throughout the challenge. Climbing on top of the maze walls and jumping causes the left sergeant here to try to shoot you, but we're lined up in a way that causes him to blast the other sergeant until he takes him down for us, meaning we only have to slip by 1. In the tunnels, we dodge beetles and leapers, stop at the final secret area of the level, and sprint through the halls until we run into another giant Berlin gunner with his own set of challenges. He's not up against the wall this time around, but there's basically no room to maneuver due to pits on either side of him, so we rotate while jumping to stay on the move and take him out to enter the inner area of the temple. Crazy enemy congestion here. Soldiers, sergeants, and grenadiers everywhere, with 2 stationary sergeants guarding the key itself. On top of that, we have frozen chickens on ropes swinging from the ceiling, so there's a good chance we could get knocked off the platform. The damage output here is insane, so I grab the final key and take the death to respawn at the checkpoint and leave the temple. We head back to the reflecting pool, fall in the lava, and finally finish level 4. The first obstacle that we need to overcome in the catacombs is the high priest through the double doors at the entrance of the crypt. You've already seen how much damage these guys can output during level 4, so disposing of one means we need to scavenge for some health to survive. Jumping around makes it easier to avoid the blue fart cloud that he shoots at us. That deals a massive amount of constant damage and is the most likely thing to kill you. We finish him off and head to the leaper pool with our huge single point of remaining health. We knife through the wall and slaughter a couple of them and pick up some health in the area before heading to
The tunnel.
After crawling out, we easily kill the High Priest guarding the Chronoceptor piece with a backstab, further demonstrating the difference between the mobile variant and the stationary ones, and claiming Chronoceptor piece number 5. Leaving the area, and we slice up some ankles from our foxhole before heading into another shooting gallery. We use our expert tactic of cutting through the floor, die, then finish off the rest of the snipers before hitting the save point before the underground maze. This area can be knocked out immediately with a few strafe jumps like you see here to raise the platforms in the center of the room, but because I'm a sucker for punishment, because I love everyone who watches my videos and want to show off more of the game, we need to tour the hallways to explore the secret areas. As you can see / hear in this area, leapers have infested the hallways and are constantly on their way to tear your arms out of your sockets. Thankfully, there's an anti-sea bear circle thing going on with the stairs, so they can't follow you up them and you can knife them from here pretty safely. Dashing through the hallways, and we come across this skull, hinting us towards the fake wall here where Secret Area 15 is located. Nothing too helpful here except some beetles to crunch and some 2 healths to pump us up to 250, the true max health. After Harambe smashes the wall to pieces, we head back to the Nexus and try our best to avoid getting hacked into cubes by the buzzsaws on the way to Secret Area 16. We try to get a zombie train going with the Leapers and escape into Blue Portal 1 to pick up the Pointy Boys in the longest swimming section of the game. And when we head back out, we get ambushed by the army of Leapers and backtrack to the broken wall to shuffle around some purlins and enter Secret Area 17. By the time we head back, another blue portal has spawned and we get the second variant knocked out as well. With that done, we can finally head upstairs in the main chamber and enter the cave section, which is crawling with beetles, leapers, and ancient warriors. The High Priest guarding the exit to the area tears us a new one, but Secret Area 18 is right around the corner with a full health to get us back into fighting shape. We head to the great outdoors, finally grab our first key in the stage, and drain the basin with its speaker-destroying sound to let us access the boss at the end of the level. Our coffers overfloweth with a massive 8 lives and we head back underground. The big bad High Priest guarding the second key goes down in a single slash, again, and we dance on his grave until we snag the second key. We speed down the hallway through some more buzzsaws and stop at Secret Area 19 to marvel at the amazing weapon that we can't use. We're now ready to take on the boss of this level. We hit the save point before we head in to take on boss number 2, the Mantis.
Mantis Toboggan, MD.
I would rank this as the most or second most difficult boss simply due to its erratic movement, speed, explosive bombs, and penchant for climbing the walls to constantly move out of knife range. For every quarter of its health that it loses, it starts moving faster and attacking with more obnoxious methods like its explosives. As you can see, it can quickly deal massive damage to you, but we just barely managed to stomp it into green paste before losing a life, earning the last key of the Catacombs in the process. I realized after the fact that I forgot to hit the final secret area. Since I felt bad for missing this before the boss fight due to the fact that you'll lose a bit of health getting there, I went back for the secret area, saved, and fought the boss again just to prove that the lost health didn't matter in the end. The Treetop Village is where this challenge started to get really hard. We ended up restarting the level 4 different times and needed a total of 29 save reloads to make it through the stage. When we lost 4 or 5 lives on one level, it was making me nervous that we're going to get very late in the game and not have the resources we need to power through to the end. One of the main difficulties of this level are the shooting gallery style setups littered throughout the stage. Sometimes you can get crafty and land some long strafe jumps to get to enemies you normally use a gun for, but there are a lot of instances of simply needing to book it through an area because the enemies are out of reach and will riddle you with bullets before you can say dead. This stage is where the platforming starts to become pretty annoying since you have sections like this one where you essentially need to take a leap of faith unless you have the map pulled up. Once we portal to the next area, we have another giant purlin fight. I really need to reiterate how tedious these fights in particular get. It's like trying to whittle a full tree stump down into a model car with a butter knife. At least we're getting good at it, even if we're developing a torn rotator cuff in the process. We get our first peek at the alien infantry, which we can basically ignore due to their very low damage output before heading into our first blue portal. The shooting gallery theme is present here too, but since it's a portal, I don't really have any qualms about strafe jumping to the last platform, grabbing the ultra health, and dipping out. We embrace our inner Donkey Kong as we climb into the treetops to hit the difficult part of the level, and stop off at the save point. Don't you worry, we won't have those 8 lives for very long. The toughest aspect of this level is the limited space you have to work with. As you can imagine, a 5-foot wide
Rickety bridge
doesn't give you room to maneuver or strafe effectively away from enemy fire. This sergeant blasts us down to nothing, but we have just enough health to grab key 1 and make a tactical retreat back to the checkpoint. After taking our daily lead multivitamin, we drop down to the next area and break the purlin's ankles with our strafing skills, blow our chance to insta-kill the sergeant, and get trashed by a blowgun sniper. Next time around, we hit the save point, and we're going to make full use of the next couple of these with what lies ahead. The next area is awful. Truly awful. The soldiers and poachers are set up in the worst places imaginable, too far away to knife, and close enough to maximize their damage on us. Even after slipping through this area, if you survive, the next area has a platoon of ancient warriors, dinosaurs, purlins, and a sergeant for good measure. The best way to deal with this sergeant is to get him to shoot the purlin gunner, who will then nuke him as he refuses to fight back. Certain enemies won't turn hostile and return fire on each other like these purlins, and I'm very glad because enemies like this sergeant would be a potential run ender otherwise. It's pretty tricky to get the scenario to line up, but it is so worth it. After finally reaching the next area, I decide I want no part of the giant purlin, regular purlin, dinosaur, ancient warrior rave, so I pick up the tech armor and beeline straight through the kerfuffle. The next area is crawling with enemies, so we strafe through and try to hold on to our armor as much as possible. I'm overjoyed that you can hop up this ledge here, because we need to do so in order to even reach the next save point and get by the Perlin gunner in the cave, which is even more important. This strategy is probably one of the most important I devised in the entire challenge, since the Perlin is against the wall and this time you have no room to strafe around him to take him down, even less than in the ruins. With a precise jump after dodging the leapers in the cave, you can barely make it to the narrow bridge and come up to the pillars from behind. By some small miracle, the Perlin is actually close enough to this gate that you can knife him from behind it, letting you safely take him down and reach the save point. We can't do anything about the sergeant guarding the entrance to this area, but thankfully we should be able to work around him. After trying in vain to preserve a life for about 5 minutes, I accept that I need to lose one here and hit the left cave to get to Secret Area 21. Once we make it back up, we get to access Blue Portal 2 and recoup some of our losses thanks to the 130 life force and tech armor on the pillars. The next part was really frustrating. We needed to get through the nearly 20 poachers and soldiers, nearly all of which have guns, avoid a nest of leapers, and snag the key, then get out of the cave without getting gunned. Once we finally get through with the key, we drop down below to refill our health and take out a couple of priests before our push to the final key of the level. Even though there are a truckload of enemies all staring towards the key, we somehow weasel our way forward and avoid most of them as we enter the home stretch. We narrowly avoid death from the High Priest on the narrow bridge, jump down behind the end portal to pick up the Chronoscepter piece and Secret Area 22, and make it back home with 19 health to spare. While technically the entire game takes place in the Lost Land, the garbage can of the cosmos where everything rejected by reality lives, the 7th level sharing the same name encapsulates the insanity of this game perfectly. It's like a 5-year-old pitched the concept of what they thought the perfect enemy list would be. A velociraptor with a gun for an arm, giant robots, aliens, and a triceratops with a rocket launcher, all fighting to stop one Native American man with a knife. The Lost Land has a few places where I was worried the challenge might end at. The first major issue is after the first portal. An entire squadron of aliens have infested the area, and the only way to proceed in a standard playthrough is to eliminate all of them in order for the pillars to raise and let you platform up. The problem here is that several of the aliens are sitting on pillars on the edges of the area, and they're the stationary class that constantly rotate and shoot you and don't expose their back for a backstab as a result. We just wouldn't have enough health to take all of these guys out. Thankfully, we once again have a solution here. It just so happens that the aliens that control the last couple of pillars are the mobile type. If you can time killing one of them well enough, you can actually jump on the platform when it's rising and make it up top without needing to fully clear the area. Crisis averted. For now. Once we hit the next area, we get our first glimpse of the Triceratops in all of its glory. We can't admire its beauty for long though, as we need to make our way up top, grab some armor, and maneuver around some very tough enemies on our way through the area. We trick this level's equivalent of a High Priest into picking a fight with a raptor and seize the opportunity to backstab him and drop the stepping stones leading upwards. It's time for another clench zone as we try to balance platforming and dodging the raptor's cannon, but we hit the portal out of the area with no real issues. I forgot the bug spray and dodged some dragonflies as we dive into the fake lava pool to discover Secret Area 23. The beautiful fusion cannon at the bottom won't be of any help to us, but
A man can dream, though. A man can dream.
anyways, Secret Area 24 is just over the cliff edge, but I clearly enjoy pain by restricting the use of spiritual invincibility, so it's of no use to us either. This entire area is crawling with powerful enemies, so it's in our best interest to get out of dodge ASAP. Once we get to the lava pillars, we take a detour to grab the tech armor. This one only gives us 23, so I don't know what that's about. And dive into the second fake lava pool to reach the first of 2 Chronoscepter pieces on this level, although only one is needed. Just for completeness sake, I'll get them both here, assuming I can even get that far. Right here is where I initially called the challenge a failure. The priest on the far ledge is much too far to reach with a knife, and with no projectiles, there's simply no way to kill him in order to raise the pillars and reach the other side. Same situation is the case across the gap. But there's still more time in the video, so what gives? Well, I'm glad you asked, you beautiful viewer. Thanks to the lovely speedrunning community for this game, and some sort of bizarre coincidence, if you jump right above the platforms when they're still descended, they will automatically raise up and let you cross. This means that we can bypass both of the priests, the switch that raises the platforms in the second section, and reach Key 1 without needing any projectiles, as well as the final save point of level 7. I really can't get over how unlikely this is. There just so happens to be something to get us past both of the areas in this level that would normally be a total hard stop for a knife playthrough. It's like the game was somehow designed with this ridiculous arbitrary challenge in mind. We're now on the campaigner's doorstep. We enter the castle and just look at this pandemonium. Seriously, this is awesome. Honestly, what other game is going to have aliens, dinosaurs with guns, giant killer robots, and otherworldly enemies fighting all at once? No game. That's what game. As much as I want to stop and admire the craziness, we need to get through here as soon as we can. Your best chance here is for all of the enemies to start fighting each other, long enough for you to drop this elevated platform, make your way up top, and grab the key before dashing away. Thankfully, we grab the final key of the game, but nearly lose a life before grabbing some tech armor and zooming through the chaos. Once we make it back outside, we pick up the Ultra Health being guarded by the robots and fly across the bridge.
Sorry you had to see that.
Trying this again, once we actually reach the checkpoint, we drop down to pick up the redundant Chronoceptor piece and portal back up top. Once we push through the turret kill box and drop over the falls, it's pretty simple to see how devastating these robots can be. The robots are the highest damage dealing enemies in the entire game. They will shred you from 250 health to nothing in a matter of seconds. The best strategy that I found here was to line up both robots, surface in the water to get them to shoot at me, and convince the further one that
Someone said fire!
to get rid of one of them. Once we drop the wall, we narrowly avoid death and finish the level with a puny 11 health remaining. You may have noticed that I didn't hit the blue portals for this level, but I'll be going over that in the next level, the final level, in fact. Well, we're here everyone, the final confrontation. I'm somewhat happy, somewhat traumatized to mention that this is, without a doubt, the most difficult level in the game. I'm sure that's to be expected, but the insanity of the challenge is about to kick into overdrive. The first area is a total war zone. Raptor mechs, aliens, turrets, robots, and 2 Triceratops are zealously trying to annihilate you and char whatever's left of your corpse. Once you get inside, things are even worse. Without the open area to abuse strafing and cause infighting at your discretion, you're trapped in cramped hallways with the toughest enemies the game has to offer. If you thought the sergeants were bad, then wait till you go head to head with the cyborg sergeants who have twice as much health. To make matters worse, every one of these guys is placed in an incredibly obnoxious location to reduce your chances of knifing them safely through a wall to 0. You are fully guaranteed to lose some health and armor on the cyborgs, and between them and the robots, which are everywhere in this level, you're in for a very rough time in close quarters. This room is a great demonstration of how horrendous your survival chances become on this level. These stationary robots will target you no matter how far away you get, meaning you'll get ambushed constantly and have to hope that they somehow miss you enough to allow you to pass. As if one of these cases wasn't bad enough, there's this very long hallway that one of these robots can shoot down for free and chunk your health into non-existence 9 times out of 10. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, once you get through this area, there are a series of very slow opening doors with 2 cyborg sergeants in them that you need to find a way to somehow get through without getting melted by their pulse rifles. When you put all of these factors together, the outside battle, the sergeants in the hallways, the robots, and the doors section, it creates the most surefire death trap in the entire game. So, now that you have a preview of what's to come, and me knowing some of this ahead of time, you can see why I waited to visit the 2 blue portals in the Lost Land. We take a trip back to the level before giving level 8 any real shot, and in hindsight, I probably should have given up a life before hitting both of these portals and picking up their tech armor, but I had no idea how insane this would be. After trying a multitude of different strategies and orders of getting items for a while, I somehow made it to the door section with 116 health, so over the normal max health cap. After seeing that not even this was enough to get past the third of 4 doors, true despair began to set in. I realized that I would need to pool every available resource I had remaining to even have a chance to get through this. After picking up all of the health that I could from the blue portals, we made it all the way to the door section with 185 health. Even with this much, we only got through and hit the first save point of the level with 12 health remaining. We celebrated a small victory that it was actually possible to even get to this point with only the knife, but there was still one problem, and a major one. We did this without hitting a secret area in the first part of the level. So after passing the second cyborg sergeant in the hallway, taking a left leads you to a wide open room, guarded by another of these stationary robots that shreds your health, alongside aliens, another cyborg sergeant, and 2 more robots. On the elevated portion at the back of the room, there's a walkway that loops around the back with a fake wall leading to Secret Area 25. As if getting through the first area wasn't hard enough, there are 2 more cyborg sergeants that you need to somehow finesse. The secret area has an ultra health and some more life force in it, but it simply isn't worth pushing through to get them because the sergeant will shoot you for free on your way in and out. So to recap, we need to get in, hit both secret areas in the lower levels of the complex, and somehow still have enough health and armor to get through the hallways and door section to reach the save point. I tried this one section from level entry to the first save point for over an hour and 10 minutes. I'm not exaggerating when I say this was one of the most difficult things that I've ever attempted. The amount of enemy positioning memory, movement optimization, health optimization, and flat out luck that is required to do this was inexplicably difficult, more difficult than the entire rest of the game put together thus far. But after all of this, is it possible? Here's what I would consider my best strategy and attempt. First off, we need to grab the tech armor outside. The damage reduction is too important to pass up. We also need to get the Triceratops and Robot to fight each other to reduce the health that we lose entering the hallways. We need extremely clean movement, reducing the amount of time facing the cyborg sergeants and robots specifically. Here, I got up the ladder nearly perfectly and only lost 10 armor as a result. We also need to do something about the robot guarding the room with the secret area in the back of it. He'll get pushed out into the hallway by the sergeant's pulse rifle and shred our health on the way out otherwise. Thankfully, he's torn between fighting me and the sergeant shooting at him, and I'm able to knife him in his tiny back hitbox enough to deactivate him. Next, we grab the armor and dip in and out of the secret area as fast as possible, and we have a shocking 54 armor still remaining. By the time we move past the robot guarding the next open room, we still have 40 armor left and hit Secret Area 26. We're in the best possible position and enter Blue Portal 1 and pick up the Ultra Health, then wait for Blue Portal 2 and grab that one's Ultra Health as well. We now have 245 health and 39 armor, so this is probably the best chance we're ever going to get. We weave through the room in the meat grinder hallway and reach the door section with a staggering 235 health. At this point, we just have to pray that we have enough health and luck to make it through this last hurdle. We slip past Cyborg 1, an alien, then Cyborg 2, and reach the end of the door section with a whopping 89 health. At this point, I can hardly believe it, as you can tell by my seizure-inducing celebrating and taunting the cyborg in the hallway. As huge as reaching this point was, we were far from finished here. Thankfully, the next few areas are easier to move through with minimal disruption, including this giant room full of purlins that we can just ignore. The next room has 2 purlins that you're intended to fight to drop the platforms down in order to progress to the next area, but with some clever strafe jumping you can bypass them. Once we enter the next area, we face tank some more damage from a sergeant before entering this room patrolled by another robot. We need to climb these platforms in order to hop through the false wall and knock out the next secret area. Astonishingly, this bumps us up to the maximum 9 lives on the final level, so we're now in an amazing spot in terms of available resources. Once we hop down the elevator shaft and show off our NFL Combine skills with our strafing, we hit the next save point and things are looking up. We head into the sewers next and we run into a big problem once again. There's a cyborg sergeant body blocking the door that we need to get through. It's a huge bummer that enemy health resets when you die, since we'd be able to chip away at him with our extra lives until he fell over if that wasn't the case. Thanks to top tier game design or divine intervention, there just so happens to be 2 tech armor power-ups in the bottom of the room that we can navigate to before trying to fight Sarge again, but I'm still not sure that it's going to be enough to survive his ridiculous damage output. I decide to try and pool as many power-ups as I can together, and drop into the lower levels of the sewer to get an extra 10 health. After losing a bit on the way up, we're down to 38 armor and 110 health as we try to subdue the cyborg. With a non-existent 7 health remaining, we overpower him, and I'm incredibly thankful that I invested in the extra survivability to give us the edge we needed. We move into the latter part of the level, and something happens that nearly gives me a heart attack. I try to save the game at the next save point, but I'm not able to. It wouldn't be until I lost 3 lives that I would realize what was happening. Because I had max lives and 99 life force, the game wasn't letting me save, and I have no idea why this is the case. Having 9 lives and collecting your 100th life force token will award you the infinite lives cheat in the cheat menu, but we weren't using any cheats, so I'm not sure why saving would have been disabled. Just to make sure I didn't accidentally turn on a cheat or something, I checked the menu and confirmed that everything was as it should be. Unfortunate that we lost 3 lives before realizing this, but at least we got to save in the end because once again, we needed it. The next section is cramped. Very cramped. It's also probably the second most difficult part of the entire game with our restrictions. There's a robot in a small room that shreds you instantly, followed by 2 sergeants guarding the entrance to the next secret area. After trying and failing to do this section for over 20 minutes, this is what we ended up doing. The robot is an issue, a big one. We were able to get the alien guarding the door to accidentally shoot him, which worked out perfectly. The robot will then continually try to shoot the alien through the door, but can't hit him, meaning he no longer cares about us unless we attack him. You'll still lose some health, so you'll need to detour to the right and grab the full health without losing too much health to the aliens. Once you move into the door behind the robot, you need to hope that both sergeants miss you enough to be able to visit the secret area and get out of the way before you die. This wouldn't be an issue if we just grabbed the spiritual invincibility, but I'm a sucker for punishment. After finally getting out of the area with a mere 7 armor and 15 health, we strafe through the next section and avoid the army of sergeants long enough to reach the health power-ups and keep moving to the next tractor beam room. We schmoove past the aliens, robots, and cyborgs and jump into the fake wall where the final secret area is located and collect our spoils in the form of Doritos. All we need to do now is reach the end of the stage. We run into one more sergeant on this narrow bridge that decides that he wants to be a pain, but we manage to hop around him, squeeze through a room full of enemies, and reach the elevator leading to the next boss at the end of the stage. You can clearly see how hyped we are to be here. Take one look at this cybernetic T-Rex and tell me it isn't the most awesome thing you've ever seen. I know, you can't, and that's okay. Thunder is arguably the easiest boss in the game for this challenge, which at first glance may seem surprising. While he has an impressive arsenal of flamethrower breath, eye lasers, and a stomp that sends out a highly damaging shockwave, his AI just isn't equipped to handle strafing behind him with a knife. His giant hitbox ensures that you're basically always going to hit him with knife strikes, and the health pickups thrown around the battlefield mean you're probably going to stay alive unless you get cornered in a bad position. If he abused his stomp more, he would absolutely be more challenging, but he completely blows his chance and we're eating some T-Rex tail for dinner tonight. After the fight concludes, you're automatically warped to the final save point and hallway of the game, which holds the final Chronoceptor piece. Collecting this means we've successfully achieved all of our side objectives for this challenge, and all that's left to do is strut down the hallway, admire the main antagonist's cute attempts at intimidating us, and enter the warp to the final battle. The campaigner has a few things working against us, but there are also a handful of things working against him. He has several different explosive projectile attacks that can catch you off guard, primarily the blue, tech arrow-like volley he fires at you from above the stage, and the X-shaped blast that he fires from his bladed club. As you hit the quarter health thresholds for this man, cyborg, he steps up the speed and frequency of his projectile attacks, meaning you need to keep moving around him to damage him and avoid getting fried. Thankfully, we don't need to worry about his shield here, since only a handful of weapons are blocked by it, and the knife isn't one of them. The good news for us is that we can actually hit him from a further distance with our steak knife than he can hit us with his giant club, so if he insists on trying to melee us, it makes it that much easier to take him down more quickly. After several minutes of hand-to-hand combat with the man himself, we bring him to his knees and he explodes, ending the game and successfully completing the challenge against all odds.
The game is now done.
If you've made it all the way here, thank you so much for watching this video. This game has always had a special place in my heart, and I always enjoy a chance to play it. This challenge was extremely difficult, but I'm thrilled that it was actually possible to do, and I hope it was enjoyable to watch the journey. I plan on making at least one more video about this game, which should hopefully satisfy everyone, myself included, who wanted to see more destruction and mayhem from this game, since that's what it's really all about at the end of the day. If anyone would like to see it, I can upload the full, unedited gameplay to another channel for those of us that like to watch things in the background, or those who are curious about how things that weren't covered in the video were completed. Thank you again for your support, and until next time, stay saucy everyone.